Insight means being clear-sighted enough to see the obvious. The man healed by Jesus in today's gospel has it. I know this much. I was blind before, now I can see. Being united with Christ through baptism is to receive the gift of insight. We know we have insight because we know what the world is really all about. It's the place where God does wonders of love. Not the least of those wonders is healing the blindness that keeps us from seeing the truth. The man who was blind since birth is a model of a Christian. When he stands before his judges, he's an example of the Christian standing before the world, proclaiming Jesus, light of the world, at the risk of ostracism. Until we meet Christ, we are like that man was, in that we have not known light. We may think we see, as the Pharisees did, but we do not really see. The man's vision of Jesus develops. This parallels the process by which someone moves from being an inquirer to a catechumen and eventually comes to baptism. Even those who have been baptized in infancy probably go through much the same development in the course of their catechesis and life. At first, he speaks of that man they call Jesus. At his next interrogation, he declares that Jesus is a man from God. Finally, when he has been driven out because of his growing insight, he calls Jesus Lord. Coming to see who Jesus is constitutes true enlightenment. Knowing who he is, we finally know the true story of the creation into which he came. We can see what is in front of us and recognize it. What do we see? What is it that should be so obvious to the followers of Christ, yet is missed by others? God. All people have the possibility of seeing something of God. However, without seeing Jesus Christ, one cannot know God in the fullest revelation. To see Jesus is to see God, and to know something of God that can be known in no other way. The call to baptism is an invitation to be cured of the blindness that afflicts the world. But why us? Why should I be chosen to know the Lord when billions of better people than I will never have that chance, more than others? Perhaps without the eye-opening experience of knowing Christ, my blindness would be worse than that of the Pharisees. In the first book of Samuel, it's not the strong and good-looking older sons of Jesse who are chosen. It's the runt of the pack, the youngest boy who is not even important enough to be under consideration. He is as unlikely to be a king as a blind man is to be a teacher of true sight to the religious experts. Yet, it is David who is chosen. It's the man blind since birth who becomes the teacher. It is I who am called to see God in Christ. Unlikely, but God's ways are not ours. How can I respond to this choice? The man in the gospel can enlighten me here. He does the two things that define a Christian. First, he proclaims Christ, standing up for him before the world, arguing his case, and suffering on his behalf. In other words, the man says what he sees. This may help others realize their blindness and lead them to the eye-opening experience of knowing Christ. On the other hand, it may confirm some in their complacency. Second, he said, "I do believe, Lord," and bowed down to worship him. The healed man not only told others what he believed, he said it to Christ as well and adored. Grateful courage is what underlies his actions. He knows that he needed to be cured and has been cured, and he knows who did it. He is not afraid to state that obvious truth. Proclamation and worship are the essence of the Christian life. When I reflect upon my call as one who has undeservedly been healed of the blindness that prevents our knowing God, I too should be moved to that same sort of grateful courage. I too should be a worshiping proclaimer.